Hello, Steve White, TrickBoy89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, I really need to stop watching some of the really shilly YouTube channels like Trek Culture. They just did a video about Robert Picardo assuring fans that don't worry, Star Trek will stay Star Trek, despite Skydance not having any DEI initiatives and basically saying we're going to be getting rid of everything that Paramount had in regards to DEI. Star Trek will still be the same, even though they've already stripped all the diversity from Strange New Worlds. There's no gay or bisexual characters anymore. We do still have a couple of black characters and a lot of female characters, but they're very conventional. Their stories all revolve around Spock and boyfriends and marriage, and they don't tell science fiction anymore. They just tell YA stories, and it's all very conventional and straightforward, literally. So I don't know what Robert Picardo thinks he's doing. He's not reading the room. He's basically just hurting the show, because although Star Trek was always woke, it did it through allegory. It did it under the noses of conservatives, and they would trick conservatives into watching the show and expand their minds without even realizing they were being educated. That's what Star Trek did best. And what Discovery did that hurt Star Trek was they came right out and said, hey, we're woke and you have to be woke to watch this show or we don't want you. And that really didn't help, because like I said, they always used to sneak the woke past the conservatives, and that was what was brewing about Star Trek and science fiction in general. Now they're all, they're running with it, and they're not fooling anyone, and it's getting pushback, which it never got before. It always expanded minds and got around that before. Now it just butts up against closed minds who've been told what the show is, and it's just a mess. So Robert Picardo's come out and said, no, the show, Star Trek, is the diversity is baked in, and we're not getting rid of that just because of, DI initiatives being removed from Paramount and not existing in the new company, Skydance, that's taking over. Now, they've essentially cancelled Star Trek. They cancelled Strange New Worlds. They're only doing 2 years. They've only committed to 2 years of Starfleet Academy. And that's because these shows were already in production before they took over. And usually when studios take over a new a channel or a network or something, they usually get rid of the old shows as quickly as they can and bring in their shows, because that's just their agenda. So I don't see these shows surviving. I don't see them lasting. And any diversity and representation that is in Starfleet Academy was already there, so he can't say what Skydance is going to do. And like I said, he's just not reading the room. He doesn't get that there's this whole anti-woke movement moving through culture and the studios. And like I said, Star Trek was always woke, but it was on the down low. It was smart about it. It put it into its stories in smart ways that made people think without realizing they were thinking. Because conservatives don't like thinking. They just because they're anti-intelligence and anti-science and everything. And Star Trek was pro all these things, but they did it in a very clever way. So this whole idea that Robert Picardo, who isn't in charge of the studio, isn't in charge of the network, isn't in charge of the show, isn't even writing the show, is just an actor, reading the lines and speaking when he's supposed to and shutting up when he's not, can't say what's going to happen in the near future with Star Trek. So I find it kind of funny that he's coming out making this big announcement. So as far as the next 2 seasons, he can say, yes, we're still woke, we're still diverse, it's all here. This is Star Trek, like it has been for the last 5 or so years, with the really progressive and predominant diversity and representation. That's all Strange New Worlds was about, and all it had going for it was the diversity and representation. It didn't have science fiction, it didn't have intelligent stories, it didn't have likeable, interesting characters, and even the diversity they did wrong by how they did it. But it was still there at least, because the original Star Trek always had diversity, and they did finally have gay characters, which they didn't have on the original era of Star Trek. So I just find it funny, and just to see the Trek culture guy who's just so shilly. He's like, I just love everything about Star Trek. Please keep giving me interviews with cast members and so forth, because I'm just going to promote everything and say it's the greatest thing in the world, because I just love it all. Even the puppets. I'll take puppets. Jeez, I hate the guy. The only reason why I watch shows, they at least do have access. They do they are informed so much as the productions and that. So they're in the loop, but only because they shill and say what they're supposed to say and promote what they're supposed to promote. But I find it really funny that they're trying to reassure everyone, because we already know that Paramount has had to go in and re-edit Star Trek and cut out stuff that was too woke or too political, and they haven't rewritten anything, but they have edited stuff out. And I don't know if they put Pike praying in to appeal to the conservatives and the religious right and everything, but it undermines everything Star Trek stands for. The reason why we don't have war in the future and why man is being able to progress and go forward is because we've got rid of religion, because religion is the source of all war and all everything bad in humanity comes from religion. So to put it back in Star Trek shows what direction the show's going in.